work in Legacy. There's just no good answer. So I was very impressed by Garrick Relentless all day.
All right, so in this matchup, we've seen Matt Costa's deck a few times. So tell us a bit about Braun-Duin.
Braun-Duin has an interesting list, I think is the way we put it. He has 4 Stoneforge Mystic, 4 Snapcaster Mage, 3 Vendilion Click, and 3 Spell Stutter Sprite.
All right, so Spell Stutter Sprite in an Esper Stoneblade deck. No other fairies, just there.
No, Vendilion Click.
Okay.
He is also running 3 Mutavault.
Very interesting. With a Riptide
With a Riptide Laboratory. The Riptide Laboratory also being able to interact well with the Spell Stutter Sprite and the Snapcaster Mage. So we're going to start out with Thoughtseize from Braun-Duin, and it shows Ghastly Demise, Force of Will, Brainstorm, and Spell Pierce, along with Wasteland, Creeping Tar Pit, and Underground Sea.
Similar to a lot of the opening hands in Matt's bugged control deck, none of the cards are really very proactive. What Brian's going to try to do is take the card that best answers what the threat in his hand is and try to eliminate that one.
We're being told that Braun-Duin mulled to 6 this game as well.
Right, so the importance, he's going to need to make sure that whatever he did keep caused him to keep his hand, he's going to need to make sure that that sticks.
He seems fairly secure in what he has, and so he's going to take the Brainstorm.
Right.
Matt Costa is going to attempt to mana screw Braun-Duin because he mulliganed, hoping that he didn't have another land.
Yeah, Matt has plenty of lands too. It's pretty good move though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brian did have another land. Matt drew a Liliana of the Veil that Brian does not know about. Not particularly good against Brian's deck, but efficient nonetheless.
So more importantly, Brian does not have. He's Esper Stoneblade, but he does not have any Lingering Souls.
Correct, he does not have Lingering Souls.
Should be a sigh of relief there from Matt Costa.
In lieu of Lingering Souls, he has a slightly more controlling outlook on the game. He has 2 main deck counter spell. He also has the Spell Stutter, 2 Spell Stutter Sprites. So he is looking to control the game much more than occasionally taking over a game with the Lingering Souls. So Brian has 1 Caracas, 1 Riptide Lab, and 3 Mutavault as his non-basic, non-dual lands. Matt Costa is going to Wasteland Brian's Tundra. Brian is going to cast a Brainstorm. It's going to get Spell Pierced.
Right. Matt, because he's still worried about Spell Pierces being somewhat dead in this matchup. He can get it if he can score a card for it like he does with this Brainstorm. That's about as good as he can hope to do later in the game. These things are going to get dead very fast as this is a drawn-out matchup.
Yes. Brian's going to go get a basic island, presumably to play something in response to the Spell Pierce. Fighting over this Brainstorm pretty hard, mostly because Brian mulliganed.
Right.
Matt Costa's still on the mana denial plan.
And Braun will pierce back. Like I said, both these players, the Pierces are a little better in Brian's deck than they are in Costa's, but both players can really expect that this game is going to become a more drawn-out affair, so they both want to make sure that the Spell Pierces don't die. They'll probably target them at something very early.
Brian did not draw a land off of the Brainstorm. I don't know if he has another one in hand. He drew 2 stone. He drew 2 Sword Supply Shares and a Snapcaster Mage. So looks like the mana denial plan worked for Matt Costa.
Yeah.
Another land for Matt Costa, this time a Drowned Catacombs, passing it to Braun-Duin, who knows the top of his library, passing it back to Matt Costa. There is no pressure on the board. However, both players are very control-y, and so the player with the most land at the end of the control game is likely to win.
Right. Costa has a Planeswalker here, and he's just going to the question is whether or not he wants to run out his Liliana right away into a Spell Pierce. Because he has so much time and so much advantage here, Costa probably will not do that. He'll wait until he has 5 mana for a Liliana, perhaps, or maybe a Spell Pierce of his own.
Sure.
Right, so we believe Lauren Nolan believing to have drawn into top 8 here, so that's adding another person into our current top 8 roster.
Yep.
So we have Jerry Thompson, Michael Hetrick, Adam Boyd, Lauren Nolan,
who have all locked up. We believe have locked up spots.
Locked up spots. I believe Max Teets also has a spot locked up, provided his opponent was willing. With his breakers, provided his opponent was willing to draw with him, he has a spot locked up. There is a chance that he's getting pared down by enough that it would not be able that. There's a chance that he could fall out of top 8.
Correct.
We'll keep you informed as we know more who are in.
Matt did play the Liliana. Matt's also going to Force of Will Brian's Brainstorm to attempt to dig deeper into his deck. Brian does have a Force of Will of his own in hand if he wants to fight.
Yeah, the bigger concern about fighting over that Force of Will there is that if Matt Costa's last card there is a Jace the Mind Sculptor, this game is completely over. So you want to save a Force of Will for something, but I mean, at the same point, you need to get out of this trap.
His options are very limited.
He kind of, so this one he has to cross fingers and hope that Matt Costa's last card is not Jace the Mind Sculptor.
There's some lands, three of them. A little late, but Brian is still at 17.
And Matt doesn't win fast.
Correct.
You know,
yeah, Brian does have a lot of time, even though he's missed 3 or 4 land drops. Brian deciding how he wants to brainstorm. Very methodical. These kinds of matches are sometimes that way. People taking a long time to think about decisions. Brainstorm, of course, being one of the more difficult cards in Legacy to play. So much so that AJ Soccer wrote a series, or did a series of videos on how to correctly brainstorm.
Right.
Brian did end up playing a fetch land. Matt Costa is going to cast Life from the Loam, getting back 2 wastelands.
Ooh, that's just brutal.
That is incredibly brutal. Of course, Brian only has 3 basics in his deck: 1 plains, 2 island. Life from the Loam, there it is. It's a rare from Ravnica. You may return up to 3 target lands from your graveyard to your hand, and it has Dredge of 3 for a colorless and a green. Very good with Wasteland, of course, when you can control your opponent's mana.
Yeah, so, right.
And with the Liliana slowly ticking up.
Yeah, 6 being the magic number there. To be honest, the Liliana Ultimate doesn't actually win the game for Costa.
Yep. It's just a nice thing to have. There's another basic from Brian. But no further action after that. Matt Costa sitting with what looks like a land and Ghastly Demise in hand, so whatever creature Brian does end up playing likely isn't going to matter too much. Matt deciding to dredge there, get back his Life from the Loam, putting some more lands in hand. Matt's hand now chock full of lands and also a Ghastly Demise. Each player is going to discard a card, which is why he decided to use the Life from the Loam to effectively double the number of cards that he would have drawn for the turn.
Right, Life from the Loam with Liliana basically means that Matt's not actually discarding cards when he's discarding to Liliana.
Brian discarding a Spell Stutter Sprite.
It's unlikely that Matt's actually going to cast a spell. It's a 1/1, but that's not enough to actually race
Players in the
Liliana.
Legacy Challenge. Your pairings for round number 1 are posted on the Karuk.
Looks like Brian's going to get another basic here.
He has no more basics that he can get off of that.
So he's end-step fetching to reset his library?
I suppose so. I don't know why he didn't just do that in his upkeep, but...
Right.
Standard challenge, standard open players, your parents...
Because that's almost certainly going to get wastelanded.
Almost definitely. End of turn Snapcaster Mage from Brian. Targeting most likely a Brainstorm once again. Matt Costa does have the Ghastly Demise to answer the Flash 2/1. After that, though, Matt does not have much else. And Brian is able to brainstorm, so he has more options available than Matt Costa, in spite of the fact that Matt Costa has the board advantage.
Right.
The cards that Brian found appear to be a Swords to Plowshares, a fetch land, and I didn't catch the last card.
So, alright, finishing us up on the brainstorm, and Matt Costa does then wasteland the Tundra.
Yes.
Brian, remember, he has no more basics, so every land he plays here he has to make excellent use of.
Right, and these polluted deltas do not go and get basics. The flooded strand can theoretically go and get a plains. This is going to be tough going for Brian, though. Matt Costa has Brainstorm and Fetch Land, it looks like. And it looks like Counterspell, Land, and something else out of that Brainstorm for Matt Costa. Not a spectacular. You're not allowed to rearrange your graveyard in Legacy, by the way. Not sure if he's aware of that.
Yeah, the reason you can't rearrange your graveyard in Legacy, there's a certain, I remember, you may be familiar, there's a certain set after which graveyard order stops being trackable.
Yes.
I recall it's like Weatherlight, I believe.
I think it is Weatherlight, where graveyard order does not, is not trackable or needs to be tracked anymore. But there are some cards, for example, Phyrexian Furnace is a card. It can remove the bottom card of a player's library from the game.
Corpse Dance.
Nether Shadow?
Yeah, Death Spark, Nether
Death
Shadow.
Spark is another good one.
There's a couple, occasionally you'll see a card in Legacy which does care about graveyard order.
Absolutely. In the Dredge sideboards a lot of the time, they'll run the Nether Shadow, whatever it's called, just in case Narcomoebas get exiled.
Right. Liliana now at 7. What Matt Costa can do here with his Wastelands in play is Ultimate Liliana essentially as a very expensive land destruction spell by separating Brian's 2 islands.
It will destroy one of the basic lands that Costa doesn't have a way to do otherwise. And what else is he going to do? Brian is not applying a lot of pressure. He is in full control of the game.
Welcome to round 7. You have 50 minutes. You may begin.
At some point, Matt does have to win the game, you would think.
Right. So worth noting, our winner of our last match, Ellie Cassis, is playing David Scharfman this round, but both of them actually are eliminated from top 8 contention due to tiebreakers. So for those of you who are following us, alright, so Brian has used up his decided to, yeah, he uses Fetch Land as his one-time Tundra, but then of course
he's going to
and they're going to go to game 2. So Matt Costa up 1-0 over Brian Braun-Duin. Alright, so the pictures run out a little bit. We have the pairings, and I can go ahead and break down what our top 8's going to look like for you. We have Max Tietz, Lauren Nolan, Adam Boyd, and Michael Hetrick, all 4 of them drawing, all 4 of them in top 8. We have Jerry Thompson also as your 5th person in top 8, though he is playing his match. He's playing against Ronnie Rittner. If Ronnie Rittner wins, both of them will be in top 8. If Jerry wins, only Jerry will be in top 8, and that will open the door for the winner between Joe Urbanski and Kenny Mayer. So those two definitely caring about the result of that matchup. So then your other two spots in the top 8 are fairly simple. The winner of this match will make the top 8, and the winner of the match between Shaheen Sarani and Michael Jacob will round out your top 8.
That is a star-studded last round, and it's going to be a star-studded top 8.
Definitely. There are going to be a lot of very strong players. Remember, top 8 is standard, so I think you have to think that Matt Costa, if he wins here, and Jerry Thompson, both of whom I believe, well, Matt Costa put up a 7-1 record, Jerry Thompson 8-0 in standard. Both of them have to be pretty excited about breaking out their standard decks again in this top 8.
And if Brian Braun-Duin manages to win this match, his matchup against Delver, the only match he lost to Delver was Jerry Thompson. Yeah,
so actually among them, some of the best standard decks, Brian went 7-1, Matt went 7-1 in standard, Michael Hetrick also going 7-1 in standard.
Right, with Rug Pod.
Yeah, so, but these two players are going to have to fight through each other, one of them into the top 8.
So looking at sideboarding.
Sure.
Brian has Surgical Extraction at his disposal, Spell Pierce, Perish, Pithing Needle, Jace, Disenchant, Dark Blast, Inquisition, Path to Exile, and Sword of Feast and Famine. Of those, I would expect to see Surgical Extraction, having seen the Life from the Loam and the Wasteland.
Having seen the Life from Rome Wasteland engine, you have to expect Surgical Extraction. It's Matt's way of winning the game.
Absolutely.
You'd also expect an extra Jace the Mind Sculptor to come in.
I
This
agree.
is a very slow matchup.
Yes, he has one main deck and one in the sideboard, absolutely bringing in the other Jace. Spell Pierce is very likely.
Yeah. The Sword of Feast and Famine, while not that good, is a probable replacement for the Umezawa's Jite that he has in his deck. It just does that job a little bit better. Over on Matt Costa's side, we saw him sideboarding against Shaheen Surani. And remember that Braun-Duin does not have Lingering Souls, so it's really questionable whether or not Matt's going to bring in Surgical Extractions in this matchup.
Well, he hasn't seen
He doesn't
Lingering Souls.
know about Lingering Souls,
Right.
so I would expect him to bring it in just because it's so necessary that he extracts Lingering Souls. There's also a Pernicious Deed, which we might see out of Matt Costa, and maybe even an Intuition. That's a slower matchup. He has time to make such plays as, Intuitioning for Life from the Loam.
Right.
What's it? I believe the typical Intuition, as mean as it is, this typical Intuition package is Loam Wasteland in this matchup.
Right. Now, both players have Pithing Needle. Would you expect either of them to bring them in, especially since Brian saw Liliana that he does not himself have?
Sure, so he doesn't have the Liliana, but that's actually the only card it's good against. You could also, I guess you could also Pithing Needle Wasteland, which that will stop it from...
You can also Pithing Needle Creeping Tar Pit. I don't remember if we saw it that game.
We did see it that game, but we saw it, but it never attacked that
Right.
game. And that's often how Creeping Tar Pit works. So because a Creeping Tar Pit is so unnecessary for Costa to win, though it's a possibility, it's not a necessity, I would imagine that you don't want to waste a card answering it. So I would say no, it wouldn't get brought in.
A little bit of hard luck for Brian Braun-Duin today. He didn't have a very good day. He came into the day in 5th, I believe.
He was at 7-1 starting today. He and Jerry Thompson both at 7 wins, 1 loss.
Getting passed by a couple players, unable to keep that, and now having to battle it out for the top 8.
Yeah, he's currently 4-3 on the day. Matt Costa is 5-2 on the day, having entered the day at 6-2.
Now, it's not so bad for the loser of this match. They'll still be taking home a nice chunk of prize money at the end of the day.
Both players will have to consider this tournament a success.
Absolutely. They may not right afterwards, but this was a $75,000 prize pool at this event, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean,
it's a very good event.
It's insane. Yeah, the last one was $10,000 for first prize. This one is $15,000 for first prize. This one is significantly better payout. All told, this weekend, Star City Games is giving away over $100,000 in prizes, including Standard Open, Legacy Open, Draft Opens,
and the Invitational.
And also a big giant check.
Right.
And who doesn't want to have a big giant check? How cool would that be?
Just as a note, after this round, we will be jumping over to coverage of the Standard Open.
Right.
Currently, we'll get you more information on that as we move toward it. Yeah, currently they are playing round 6 of 10 in the Standard Open, so there should be plenty more Magic coming your way. All right, game 2. Brian Braun-Duin on the play.
Deciding if he's going to keep his opener.
The Standard Open actually is in round 7.
Brian is going to start things off with a Flooded Strand. Going to get an Underground Sea.
Probably a Thoughtseize or an Inquisition coming out here.
I would imagine so.
Magic players, John Wolf, please report to the open stage. Your $10 draft number 7 is ready.
Inquisition of Kozilek from Brian Braun-Duin reveals Matt Costa's hand of...
Alright, click Inquisition of his own, preordain 4 lands. A very control-esque opening.
Yes.
He'll either take the Vendilion Click or the Inquisition, depending on if there's something in his hand really worth protecting.
Last call for John Wolf.
Now, both the Vendilion Click and the Inquisition can snag something out of Brian's hand, particularly if he uses the Stoneforge Mystic to search his library.
Right, there's a good play with,
I do see Caracas in Brian's hand, though. So that is worth noting with Vendilion Click on the other side of the board.
Though bouncing your opponent's Vendilion Click sometimes
not ideal.
Not ideal, but it's a good play to know that it's there. So, spending a bit of time on this play, he decides to go for Vendilion Click.
I think that's the correct choice. I think that you want to take out any way that Matt can actually win the game. Matt is going to wasteland the Underground Sea.
Matt's perfectly content slowing down this game. He did lose a 3-1, which is sad for him, but you know, he always has more cards.
Mutavault for Brian. Matt has another wasteland now. Although he's not going to use it, he's going to Inquisition Brian.
Inquisition before Thoughtseize, because Inquisition is more limiting. Thoughtseize will come. Next turn, we should expect to see Thoughtseize Wasteland.
His hand is Batterskull, Counterspell, Vendilion Click, Mutavault, Caracas. So very awkward mana situation for...
Right, I mean, the Vendilion Click and Counterspell are hardly cards in this hand.
Yeah.
Granted, Matt will give him plenty of time to make them into cards, but Matt's got to think about, you know, all three of the things he can take with this. None of them are that impressive. He'll go with the Vendilion Click, though.
So all of the legendary fairies that were in opening hands now in the graveyard.
And really, Matt Costa would do anything here to try to get a life from the loam. So
2 damage in.
Brian drawing the Tundra, not even pretending, not even shuffling it into his hand, just put it straight onto the battlefield.
Preordained from Matt Costa. He's going to wait a little while.
His Pernicious Deed.
And a blue spell.
Right.
He's going to wait a little while on the Thoughtseize to wait until something more exciting comes along.
So he's the blue spell is Snapcaster Mage.
Yes.
Yep. So he's going to waste Brian off of blue and white sources.
He put the deed on the bottom, so that is not
Deed's
going
not
to be...
Matt's really all he needs to win this game is a life from the loam right now.
That's right. Already had 2 wastelands. I'm a little confused as to why... oh, well, he has a fetch land. Maybe that's why. I was a little confused as to why he threw the Tundra out there when just attacking with the Mutavault.
Well, he threw the Tundra out because I think he wanted to set up double blue.
Ah, yes. Okay, fair enough.
So he did this fetch land. He clearly drew the Tundra that turn, and he drew the fetch land this turn. Now, at least, he has a blue source that is safe from being wastelanded.
Right. I didn't happen to see the Polluted Delta last turn, or if he drew it this turn.
He must have drawn it this turn because we knew his draw last turn was Tundra.
Sure.
So at this point, Matt Costa still has perfect information on Brian's hand.
2 damage in from the Mutavault into Matt Costa. Also a very good core Artificer, to continue our conversation from earlier.
Still, at least one of the top 3
At least one of the top 3 core Artificers. Stoneforge Mystic, of course, is what we're referencing here. So David Scharfman and Eli Cassis are going to game 3 of their match.
Yeah, I don't believe, if my math is right on here, I believe they're playing for 9th place. They're the last 2 people in their record bracket, but both their breakers are a little on the low side. To be fair, though, it's very possible that they're close enough, especially if Eli Cassis wins. There's close enough that, you know, a little bit of standings movement could maybe get him to sneak in there. Granted, in our 16-round tournament, tiebreakers don't change that much, but still an important one. We'll keep an eye on that one.
There are also many other Magic tournaments going around the world today.
So we also have Joe Urbanski defeats Kenny Mayer. So that's the matchup. Like I said before, what I believe it hinges on is that Jerry Thompson match. If Joe Urbanski will be top 8, I believe he's a lock for top 8 if Jerry Thompson wins his match over Ronnie Rittner.
Right. And it's likely that Jerry was playing his match if his opponent had offered to draw.
Yeah, his opponent couldn't take the draw.
Oh, his opponent
because Jerry's
had
getting
to play.
paired down.
I see.
So in a certain sense, Jerry could have conceded his opponent into top 8.
Right, but
that's not that's not entirely his style.
It's not his style. Also, if he had done the math the way you had, he's much better friends with Kenny Mayer.
The better part is that if Jerry Thompson plays this, Jerry Thompson has nothing to lose. If he plays this match and wins it, he will be in unquestioned first place. Remember that the top 8 is standard. Jerry's playing Blue-White Delver. If he plays this and wins, he will win all his die rolls in the top 8, which with a deck of Blue-White Delver, that's got, that is certainly not an irrelevant piece of information.
Right. Now, of course, this being a Saturday, we have lots of Magic tournaments going on around the country. around the world, actually, since Grand Prix Manila is taking place. And there are 2 players undefeated at the end of that one, 2 players that I don't recognize the names of, unfortunately. But that's also a standard event, and I believe both players at the top of that tournament are both Delver. So,
Okay.
interesting to know.
Also going to 3 games, the other win and in between Shaheen Sarani and Michael Jacob. So double Mutavault now, Brian Braun-Duin. Matt Costa, plenty of sacrifice effects, means Brian can't really activate anything. Not sure he wants to anyway, but Brian really wants to build up toward this batter skull that's in his hand.
Yeah.
Inquisition, whiffs.
Finds nothing.
Which is I'm very surprised. No, it found the counter.
It found the counter spell. Never mind.
I was first going to say I was very surprised because Matt had perfect information on the hand. But yeah, it did find the counter spell, so that makes sense.
Caracas from Brian Braun-Duin. Many, many lands for Matt Costa. Thoughtseize takes the batter skull.
Take the batter skull, and so now he has a second blue. So Brian will have double blue this game. It's the one that he can't get rid of. Costa. Remember, we should mention that Costa's wastelands were surgically extracted. So Costa's plan of Loam Wasteland.
Right. While we were talking about other things, we forgot to mention that.
Yeah. So Costa's going to have to find a new method for winning other than drawing life from the Loam. And
there's a Stoneforge from Brian Braun-Duin. That will be okay. It won't be great.
Well, it'll find this Sword of Feast and Famine, I believe.
So it'll get the Sword of Feast and Famine, which we assume. Yep, there it is.
Yep, batter skull's already gone, and this was possibly his only other piece of equipment. Brian will probably just shove it out there now.
I would imagine so.
He can't afford it getting Inquisitioned or Thought Seized. And I mean, he can't really afford it getting Spell Pierced, but that's less likely at this point.
You can't really just play around the Spell Pierce. He kind of has to just run it out there.
Attention Magic players, you sign up for Commander number 12. Please report to the open stage.
You're more afraid of the discard spell. You're also more afraid of a Vendilion Click or something like that. So, yeah, Sword of Feast and Famine is going to have to be Brian's road to victory this game.
Sword of Feast and Famine with Manland's very powerful strategy.
Yes. Now, Matt Costa only has Snapcaster Mage and Diabolic Edict in hand, which are 2 Edict effects.
Right.
So he will be able to hold off that sword for a while, but he is representing 3 creatures on the board. And in addition,
Matt's going to have to do what his deck does best. It's going to have to kill everything.
That's right.
Recall, though, with the Manlands, Matt has to be careful about his instant speeds Edict effects, because those are really his only ways of getting rid of the Manlands, now that his Wastelands have been extracted.
He drew a black card for the turn. I can't really tell what it is, unfortunately. We're going to play Snapcaster Mage. Snapcaster Mage is going to Preordain. So we have 1 less Edict now. We're going to try and dig for more. That looked like a Life from the Loam to me.
Yeah.
As well as a Brainstorm.
Right.
I'm not sure Life from the Loam is good anymore. He's going to put it on the bottom.
Because the Wastelands are gone.
Yep. And Brainstorm in hand.
Yeah. Card, and then he has a discard. Yep, he has a Brainstorm and Fetch land online. This sword will become a little bit of a problem here, though.
Well,
the reason you get rid of, you don't care about snapping the Diabolic Edict, is that even when you Edict, it won't even stop 1 sword hit from getting in. The sword's going to be hitting with Mutavaults this turn.
He's going to attempt to equip, and then he will attack.
If Matt had an Edict right now, then Brian could, in response, just activate the other Mutavaults.
Right. Well, he's going to attack first, and then activate the Edict.
Well, he would activate the other one if Matt had a Diabolic Edict here.
Yes, which he does.
Which he does, right. Matt's going to Brainstorm.
Oh, he's going to Brainstorm.
Yeah, he'll probably just chump with Snapcaster Mage here. Matt doesn't play Riptide Labs, and a 2/1 body isn't his plan to win. Right. So this will actually just afford him to be by chumping here, he can be greedier with how he decides to play his Diabolic Edict and his Brainstorm. So the 2/1 body isn't really important. What's important is that Matt gets full value out of this Brainstorm. Yes. And chumping is fine.
One thing that happened there, Matt Costa has a Dark Blast on top of his library that he put there with the Brainstorm. There it is. Among other cards, which I'm having trouble seeing. Matt Costa
now, does he have
shuffles
another Brainstorm in hand, or does he have a way to...
that might be another Snapcaster Mage.
So he can snap the Dark Blast?
I believe so. I can't really Yeah, he's got a Snapcaster Mage.
So now he can Dark Blast, Snap, Dark Blast, that's good here because when he pays the mana to equip, Matt can make this play, and then the Edict will be online for the other Mutavault.
Right.
He's deciding here. Because remember, Matt still doesn't have enough mana to go Edict, Snap, Edict. It's going to activate the second Mutavault.
Now Matt could, in response, cast Diabolic Edict, but
he doesn't have two of them, so it won't actually get what he's do what he's trying to do.
It would have prevented the Mutavault from attacking. He would have had to activate again with itself.
What I think
it would
he
have
wants
had to turn itself on.
I almost would want to see him Dark Blast. No, there's no good way to do this. So he's going to snap the Diabolic Edict.
No, he's going to snap a Brainstorm.
Well, actually, that's just as good because this Snapcaster can trade with the 2/2 Mutavault.
The Mutavault, yes.
And then Matt can actually allow for an untap and discard
Raven's Crime, I believe?
Yes, Matt is playing Raven's Crime. He does have one Raven's Crime on the board.
And he did bring in the Surgical Extractions.
Right, I think he's suspecting Lingering Souls, but there are no Lingering Souls in Brian's deck.
Yes.
Alright, there's a second here for a judge call. So we'll pause for a sec. Right, so what we have, our other matches, remember we have Shaheen Sarani and Michael Jacob going to Game 3. Winner of that will be in the top 8. We have Braun-Duin, Matt Costa going right now in Game 2. Matt's up a game. Winner's in top 8. We have Jerry Thompson up 1 game on Ronnie Rittner. Jerry's already in the top 8. If Ronnie wins, Ronnie will be our last spot in the top 8. If Ronnie loses, Joe Urbanski most likely will round out our top 8.
Fair enough. I have a very funny tweet here from Michael Hetrick who says, in the last round of Legacy, most players accepted that the format is too slow and decided to intentionally draw to save time.
That is
not
the most
not the most accurate statement ever, but a lot of times when you have like super fast combo-y kind of decks, the answer to it is to play super slow decks in order to control the game, and then when those two decks meet up, it gets awkward.
Well, I mean, it has been a slow format. Of note, Shaheen Sarani actually in this event only has 2 losses. He has 2 draws to go to 2 losses, both coming in Legacy. He's playing Lingering Souls Stoneblade.
Yep.
So that wasn't a judge call on the rule. Matt called because he actually had a rules question. So what he's going to do is he's going to block. I think he's wondering whether or not this trigger will still happen, and the answer is yes, the trigger will still happen. But now both the Mutavaults have been successfully dispatched. There's still a sort of Feast and Famine in play, which has got to be an annoyance for Matt Costa, but you have to think that his road to the top 8's looking really good right now.
Yep.
There's lands, and granted he has no Loam Wasteland engine to go to anymore, but he still is in a really good spot, especially, say, were this to hit a Jace the Mind Sculptor off the Preordain, he's only waiting until something like that for him to win.
Looks like the first card there's a Ponder.
It's almost going to be a certain keep. So he'll keep both on top and draw.
He drew the non-Ponder card, I believe. Looks like a Snapcaster Mage. Deciding how he wants to tap mana. Oh, it's a Scavenging Ooze. That's a big guy. Going to be tough to deal with, although it is green. So Brian still having a sort of Feast and Famine effect.
He has 2 of them in his board. My guess is that they come in most matchups because Matt's so light on ways to win the game. He wants to make sure that in these drawn-out situations that he always has some way that he can win. And Scavenging Ooze is a pretty good card for that, actually.
In addition, he may have still put Brian on Lingering Souls.
Sure. Absolutely.
Brainstorm from Brian.
That should be fine. Matt doesn't really have a way to interact with it. So it will resolve.
Is Matt attempting to have a response, or?
Well, Brian's already drawn the cards.
They're already drawn the cards. I see. Never mind. I missed that he drew the cards. Mutavault.
All right, so a third Mutavault from Braun-Duin. He only plays 3, so this is the third one that Matt Costa will need to take care of. These creatures particularly hard because a lot of Matt's removal spells he does have a decent amount of sorcery speed edict effects, none of which will do very much. So Ellie Cassis defeated David Sharfman. Remember, this one is probably just a match for 9th. we'll keep an eye on it. What Ellie's going to have to do, his breakers were 56.9 going into this round, whereas Joe Urbanski was 58.2. Ellie could possibly jump Joe for the spot, but once again, that's going to be pretty difficult in a 16-round tournament.
So what's happened here is Braun-Duin looks like he has upkeep cast this Vendilion Click. Matt Costa has revealed Surgical Extraction and Spell Pierce. Brian has told him that he can keep those cards. Or draw step, he cast it, of course.
Right, Matt's going to have to find a way to... Well, the bigger question is that it's possible that Matt can race Vendilion Click with Scavenging Ooze,
right.
even if the Vendilion Click has a Sword of Feast and Famine on it.
So there's at least a Stoneforge Mystic in Brian's graveyard, correct? I believe?
Yes.
I don't know what other creatures are in Matt's graveyard. He does not have many in his deck. He has at least a Snapcaster Mage or two in there. There goes the Stoneforge Mystic. The first turn discarded Vendilion Click will also go away. I imagine he will.
Oh, sorry. Keep continuing.
I imagine he will remove as many creatures from his graveyard as he can, tapping all the green mana.
And remember, the life gain here pretty relevant as we essentially ended a
Yes.
racing situation. Ronnie Rittner equalizes with Jerry Thompson now at 1-1. Remember, Ronnie with the win will make it into the top 8. Jerry probably already there. Yeah, Jerry's actually certainly there. He has the best breakers left of any player in the tournament.
Yeah. By a significant margin, yes.
Yeah, I can't see anyone passing him for that spot. But remember, Jerry's still playing for a lot. If Jerry wins, he will be the overall 1 seed.
Yes.
In a top 8 with sure to have Delver Mirrors.
Right, and having the one being on the play in the Delver Mirror is quite important, of course.
Yeah.
He may have even been tempted to not draw had they both been locks for top 8. He may have been tempted to not draw.
If Jerry does not have the top seed, we will see the overall number 1 seed either go to Michael Hedrick or Shaheen Sarani.
Now, Matt Costa went up to 12, of course.
Right.
After
He
gaining
doesn't
life
seem to have
from
an answer for the
Scavenging Ooze.
Vendilion Click, but he outside of racing.
So Brian is going to activate the Mutavault, equip with the sword on the Mutavault, and attack with both critters.
Yeah, cracking in for 7. Those got to be kind of scary. Matt still with a pretty good-sized grip, searching in his graveyard.
I believe we know his hand is Spell Pierce Surgical.
Neither of which
does
you really
Brian.
want to cast.
Brian, after damage,
going to-
perhaps. Oh, he's going to discard the Surgical,
Yeah, Brian's floating a white
floating
mana
a white mana.
for. So he's deciding here. If there's anything. Do we know the card in Brian's hand?
No, I don't believe so. I don't.
All right. It's possible he has a Spell Stutter Sprite. A Swords to Plowshare. Swords to Plowshares obviously would be incredible here.
Yes.
I believe we would have
The
already
best
seen that.
possible card would be Swords to Plowshares.
Yeah, Matt Costa's Spell Pierce not really a card anymore. Matt will need to somehow load up the graveyards with 3 more creatures if he wants to survive. Doesn't look like he's going to.
I don't know what phase we're in, if we're in the attack step still.
We must have been in the attack step. Brian still has floating mana. I don't think he would float the mana just for like correct technical play reasons.
Right.
But to be fair, you should always float the mana in that situation. Or, you could say in theory it is always correct to float the mana. Alright, still debating.
Looks like it's a re-equip onto Vendilion Click second main phase. He decided
Sure.
not to use the white mana.
And he's going to pass the turn back, moving Mutavault becoming a land. Alright, we'll see what Matt Costa
It was a
does.
blue card. I couldn't really... He flashed it too quickly for me to see what Brian's
Matt
Brian's
Costa,
card in hand was.
Matt Costa's going to dredge Dark Blast.
Interesting.
Well, I think he knew the top card of his deck, I believe.
Ah, okay. So now Brian still has perfect
He's
information
trying to
on
dredge
Matt's
himself
hand.
into a creature, which he
Ah,
has
yes.
a Snapcaster. That's not exactly enough.
play, please come up to the open event stage.
So Brian is going to take this 6, correct?
It will be a 7, but yeah, I think he will.
7? Is there another
There's a
creature I'm missing?
Snapcaster Mage in Matt's yard.
Okay.
A good re-equip there by Brian Braun-Duin really actually could have been, yeah, the re-equip there was very pivotal.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see the line where Matt still stays alive here. I think he's dead to the swing.
I think he
So Brian
probably
takes
needed
6.
to try to hope to draw the Liliana or a Jace or something like that in order to deal with this.
Even another Diabolic Edict would do it, but yes, you're right.
I don't think that the Dark Blast did anything for him there. He was trying to get into another creature, I suppose.
Yeah, remember, there's only 11 minutes left in the round here. It's been a good, funny joke. We talked about 3 rounds ago about that we were going to get Matt Costa on camera to talk to us about Delver. Unsurprisingly, if you're looking at his deck, he's gone to time every single round in Legacy, which is why we haven't gotten him on camera for you.
Matt Costa is. They may have an extension, remember?
Yep.
But
they may have an extension.
Okay, so that's
going to game 3.
We're going to go to game 3. I imagine a quick shuffle, somewhat quicker than in between games 1 and 2. Matt's going to be on the play this game. Does that change anything, in your opinion, sideboarding-wise?
Not particularly. This matchup doesn't care about play versus draw that much.
Yeah, I think that this matchup is much more about like what cards you actually have and sort of the chess game of the mid and late game as opposed to.
Our 6th spot in the top 8 has been punched. 2-1, Shaheen Sarani has defeated Michael Jacob. Of note, that means Shaheen Sarani will either be the number 1 seed or 2 seed, depending on whether or not Jerry Thompson wins going into this top 8.
And Shaheen was one of the 2 undefeated players at the end of day 1.
Right.
There's a great photograph on the Star City Games homepage. It's half Shaheen Sarani, half Michael Hetrick. It's very, very.
Right, they're actually very, very similar individuals.
They do. They have similar facial features. They're not obviously the skin color is slightly different, but they're very similar facially featured. It was a little unsettling when I first saw the picture.
So 6 spots in the top 8 top 8 marked. The winner of this will have the 7th spot, and the 8th spot will go to either Ronnie Rittner or to Joe Urbanski, or that is what we believe. Obviously, there always can be some tiebreaker turnarounds, so nothing here set in stone, but that is our projected top 8.
Both these players clearly a little tired. There's a little grin from Brian Braun-Duin there. Little friendly banter. Both these players have been battling for 16 rounds. They know that the end is near, but only one of them can make it
Brian really had
the knockout stages.
Brian really had to battle to be back into that game, and it was really good to see. Early on, I remember there was a point where Matt was thought seizing him, and we saw a hand of Mutavault, Caracas, Counterspell, and click Batterskull.
Absolutely.
I remember thinking, oh boy, he's in for the long, this is going to be pretty tough on him.
It was rough, but he got there. Brian Braun-Duin is very good at the Esper Stoneblade deck. He's been playing it forever through thick and thin, whether it was good or bad in the meta game, but he's been very good with it, and he's top-8'd multiple Star City Opens.
Right.
He amassed 2 buys for this tournament, so he's a very good player on the Star City Games Open scene. So we're going to start out with an Underground Sea from Matt Costa. Brian Braun-Duin certainly
going to be a Thought Seize here.
Yeah, I would imagine. Oh no, it's a Preordain.
Depending on Matt's hand, it does have a Thought Seize in it, but he decides to.
That makes sense. Brian Braun-Duin's big hitters are at 2, notably Stoneforge Mystic.
Okay, there was a judge call there on accident. Matt accidentally looked at the top 3 cards. Remember, that is not a game-lost judge call. What the judge has ruled that he's supposed to do in that situation is shuffle just put the 3rd card back, because it was clear which one the 3rd card was, then shuffle your deck, then resolve your preordain.
Yes. So he chose to get the fetch land off the top, and the other card was another Preordain. Yeah. Chaining Preordains there. Brian played a Tundra and passed.
Matt has Counterspell in his hand.
Sure does.
Yep, he has 1 out of Counterspell. He's going to Thought Seize here. before playing. Yeah, it's gonna get.
We're gonna do the old brainstorm trick to hide
the card that does everything.
It hides things from counter spells, or sorry, it hides things from Vendilion Click and Thoughtseize. It Ancestral Recalls in some games. Yeah, it slices, it dices, it Julienne fries.
As I've said in previous coverages, I think unquestionably the strongest card in Legacy.
Oh, absolutely. And I would suspect that Wizards have. Okay, so we have a hand. Sorry. Mutavault, Snapcaster Mage, Mutavault, Spell Pierce, Flooded Strand, Surgical Extraction, and a Thoughtseize.
Snapcaster.
I'm sorry, Snapcaster. What did I say? I said something else.
I
apologize.
said surgical again.
I did say surgical again.
Okay. Well, this is an excellent hand for Brian to begin with. It's got a perfect amount of disruption with good threats. So Jerry Thompson was defeated here by Ronnie Rittner. That will move Ronnie Rittner up to 36 points, and what I believe will move him into the top 8. So with that, Shaheen Sarani is now your overall 1 seed heading into, or projected to be the overall 1 seed heading into the top 8.
Shaheen playing a Esper Solar Flare control style deck, as he is wont to do.
Right, so in order, our top 8, our projected top 8, looks to be Shaheen Sarani at 1, Michael Hetrick at 2, Adam Boyd at 3. At 4 we have Lauren Nolan, 5 Max Tietz, 6 Jerry Thompson, 7, and then 7-8 will be Ronnie Rittner and the winner of the match you're watching right here.
Now, Matt Costa played another Preordain that turn in addition to his discard spell. The discard spell, Thoughtseize took Snapcaster Mage. Matt added an island to his hand.
Yeah.
Mutavault for Brian Braun-Duin and pass.
I should actually make a catch here. Looking at breakers, if Brian wins this, he will certainly be in the top 8. Matt Costa could very easily miss out on tiebreakers if he were to win this match. Joe Urbanski, who right now is projected to be in 9th, I didn't realize Matt Costa's breakers are much worse than Brian's. The two it would be being between Matt and Joe for that last spot. It would be very close.
That would be heartbreaking.
Matt with a slight edge, but certainly one that can be overcome between 2 rounds.
Yes, depending on wins and losses of previous opponents.
Right, other people are still playing.
It's absolutely
so Matt's going to start, and then this is actually the best answer he could have. So Brian's hand is full of a lot of really good disruptive cards. If Matt can get a Raven's Crime engine going, that's probably the best thing he could hope to do.
Is this a one-of for Matt?
This is a one-of. Remember that there's a Surgical Extraction in Brian's hand, so if Matt tries to get too sneaky if he casts Life from the Loam, he'll probably won't actually get to Loam Crime Brian. He'll probably instead just bait the Surgical Extraction.
Matt does not look like he has another land in his hand.
No,
and also he doesn't have another black mana.
Right.
So for my more Ravens Criming for now, it is going to get
not even going to take chances.
Yeah,
he's going to get that Surgical.
I think Brian knew that he had the control hand as well. Matt Costa reveals a hand of Dark
Very
Blast,
excellent hand.
Pernicious Deed, Snapcaster Mage Counterspell.
So if I'm Matt Costa here, I'm very excited about the play that Brian made, because this lets me set up... Okay, so here's my eventual win con if I'm Matt Costa. I want to Loam Wasteland to win this game. That's probably my go-to win con. And now that there's an extraction in the yard, Matt, if he has boarded in extractions, will extraction the extractions and then clear the way for his own Loam Wasteland engine. What you have to do is survive to this point.
Yeah, and also he has to do that in, 11 minutes plus an extension.
You have to assume Matt Costa has not drawn yet this tournament, and he has gone 2-time every round in Legacy today. So he's a very savvy player. These players have a 4-minute extension. I think we have about 7 minutes or so left in the round, so we're looking about
he knows
11
exactly
minutes to time,
how long it takes to win.
Yeah, I think he is very good at playing with the clock.
Another land for Matt Costa. This time it is the Extended Art Tropical Island. They're weighing their options right now. I believe he passed the turn to Brian. Brian's going to fetch.
But Brian, so Brian, remember, Matt, we'll have to answer a pair of Mutavaults from Brian. Brian's going to Vendilion Click right here. Not sure who it's targeting yet. I assume Matt
Well,
Costa.
the spell has to resolve first. I don't think Matt did not.
I
have
don't think
counterspell.
it.
Or he
No,
did
does have
counterspell.
counterspell. Actually, I don't think this will resolve. It's a little too fast. Okay, he's going to let it resolve. He's going to Dark Blast it. And he chooses chooses Matt Costa. 3 very good cards, all worthy of getting rid of.
And it's also possible that Matt should Brian choose one of these cards. Matt can dredge the Dark Blast back instead of drawing the extra card if he so chooses.
He's not going to.
He's not going to do that.
There's nothing good to Dark Blast on this board yet. Instead, he drew a fetch land, though. Not entirely
Brian
exciting.
draws another Mutavault, activating the first one and attacking for 2.
Brian now has a third Mutavault in his hand.
I believe so, yes.
That's very important here.
No, he does not. That was the second Mutavault. I
Now,
apologize.
Pernicious Deed, mind you, lists the kinds of things it kills. It does not say non-land.
It does
It
not say
lists.
non-land, and that's what Brian is reading right now.
Unfortunately, yes, it will kill Mutavaults. But probably, it will probably kill Mutavault, to be honest.
Yes, we'll probably kill a Mutavault. Would you still attack for 2 here?
Brian says no. I
probably would.
He may be worried about an edict effect. I'm not sure. I think I would. All right, and Matt, the engine's going to start running.
There it is.
Like I said, he's got to clear the way here. He's doesn't seem to have the time to wait to surgical the surgicals. So it's a little
two fetch
risky.
lands.
It's going to be a race. Can Matt get his engine online before Brian surgicals away the loans?
This looks like a
or Brian could
Snapcaster.
snap his own surgical if he has it. He's
Nope,
gonna just
there's
Vendilion
another
Click.
Vendilion Click.
That's going to eat a counterspell.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's going to take the counterspell. It's the best card in Matt's hand. No sense in giving your opponent a 3-1.
There's a Snapcaster Mage. This is probably
That's going to go on
surgical,
for
a life
sure
from
for
the
that
loam.
loam.
It's got to be on life from the loam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Now, interesting thing, were these players to unintentionally draw this round, it will give the top 8 slot to Joe Urbanski to round out the top 8.
I'm sure there will be lengthy discussion at the end should they reach the end of turns having not locked up a winner. I'm not sure they're aware of the math that you've just done, that Matt could theoretically miss out on top 8.
Right. Like I said, Matt entered at 58.4, Joe Urbanski at 58.2. But yes, it's very possible.
There's a Wasteland.
It's a little too late.
A little
the loan's
too late,
already
though.
gone.
So his hand is full of lands.
Wasteland's still a good card
Wasteland, he did not play it, though.
here. He's going to Dark Blast the Snapcaster Mage. All right. Mutavault will activate and knock Matt Costa down to 10. No sense in Matt to not run out his lands at this point.
So I see how
He's
Matt...
drawn another land.
I see how Matt doesn't die. I fail to see how Matt wins this game.
Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Okay, Brian also has those. I'm saying so he's just working off the top of his deck, hoping to draw better than Brian at this point. Whereas Brian is proactively.
He has
attempting.
more Jace the Mind Sculptors.
That's fair. He has 3.
He has 3.
To Brian's 2, sure. And he's also seen more of his deck.
Creeping Tar Pit, possibly. None of these are great answers. If you're listening to my answers at home and being like, these aren't good answers at all, then you're right.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Whereas Brian is proactively attempting to do something.
Right,
Matt now has a Snapcaster Mage, which will actually do something.
Right.
Let's see what it is going to do. It may Brainstorm or Preordain. I don't remember if there's any of those. Yep, there's a Preordain. That's going to get Spell Stutter sprited.
Ooh. All right, there will be no preordaining. All right, it's gone.
Absolutely right. Now the other thing is, should Brian have another Spell Stutter sprite, he will have 4 fairies to be able
Those
to
Spell Stutter sprites are card
sprite.
counters right
Yes.
now. The problem is that you can't do that because Pernicious Deed's in place. You
that's
don't want to
fair.
activate all of
That's
them, turn into fairies, and then have them all die.
You're right. So he needs to apply pressure enough
And he'll
to
brainstorm.
make Matt blow up the Pernicious
Yeah,
Deed.
and this is one of those situations where this is Ancestral Recall he's casting.
Yes. Did he get anything relevant?
Got a
Doesn't
Wasteland.
Look like it. Looks like a lot of lands is what I think. And there's the last card, another land. My goodness, 4 lands for Matt Costa.
He'll put 2 lands back.
Still not very good.
Alright, so he's going to, yeah, he'll play Wasteland, and he's going to pass the turn. You have to expect a fetch land will be cracked at some point here. Even if Matt has nothing to find, the fetch land will be cracked. Braun-Duin brainstorming, both players.
Do Stoneforge, Swords to Plowshares.
He's got all gas here. You gotta like where Brian's
a
sitting.
blue and a Snapcaster Mage.
That's just
Oh my.
amazing. Matt clearly out brainstormed here.
Yeah. Brian's top of the deck much more kind than Matt's. The fairy pecking away at Matt's life total here, bringing him down to 6.
And Stoneforge Mystic entering the battlefield. You have to like in getting Batterskull. This looks like it's Brian's about to get it.
Matt will most certainly have to deed before the Batterskull hits the board, I would imagine, because now we're attacking with 2 1-power guys, possibly activating a Mutavault. Probably not. Representing lethal though.
Yeah. No, I don't see what Matt needs to draw here. This looks like it's Brian's.
This is Brian's game to lose, it looks like. There's that another land.
If you're a Joe Urbanski fan, you're not going to like this. Brian is a lock with a win here. His tiebreaker is far too high for anyone else to overcome.
I have to admit, I know Brian better than I know Matt. Matt was on turn 0 there, so we actually have to. He has to hurry here. The Snapcaster Mage is going to stand in front of.
So this is turn 1.
This is turn 1.
Well, maybe there still is hope.
I would imagine that Matt would see the writing on the wall and be the nicer man, but I don't know.
There's a lot of money at stake here.
There is a lot of money at stake, so I don't know.
I don't think there's any obligation for one of them to be the nicer man at this point.
I completely agree. I completely agree that there's no obligation at all.
Or at least, I guess, I would not consider Matt to be a not nice man.
Correct.
If he were to draw this game.
In the few interactions that I've had with Matt, I would not consider him a not nice man anyway.
No, but I mean, with a draw here, Matt is guaranteed a top 16 finish, which really is not true with a loss.
Yeah.
That's a lot of price. I don't,
No, I completely agree. And I have to admit that I am a big Braun-Duin fan. There's a Jace.
This is
that's big.
Can you confirm this is they're on extra turns right now? All right.
So this is turn 1.
Jace over Batterskull here. I mean, he's got to do it. This Pernicious Deed is really going to
push the action. Yeah.
And I'm not sure Brian can win this in time.
I'm not sure either.
Certainly, Matt, with this an untimed game, I think Brian would be in the driver's seat, but
absolutely.
I'm just not sure that that's possible right now.
Brian
confirmed
that was turn 1. It is now on to Matt Costa playing on turn 2. Matt Costa has land and...
Pass the turn. Turn 3.
Not quite. Land and? I don't see the other card. Brian is debating an end of turn effect, I believe.
Yeah. There is so in the event of a draw here, it'll likely be Joe Urbanski in the top 8. There's a very small chance that Ellie Cassis could pass on tiebreakers. Otherwise, it will be Braun-Duin as your final spot in the top 8.
This is turn 3 for Brian. The Spellstarter Sprite not representing enough of a clock to put Matt under pressure. That was a brief shot of Brian contemplating his Jace brainstorm there. There's the last Mutavault.
Remember that they'll get one turn to attack.
Yep. So this will put Matt to 3. Brian is going to do what now?
He's got to come up with some way to deal enough damage.
This is going to be a Stoneforge Mystic, I imagine. Yeah. It's going to get spell snared.
The problem is that Matt on the final turn of the game can simply crack the deed.
Yes.
I do believe on the board this will go to a draw.
I agree.
Much as Brian doesn't want it to be so. And Costa will Legend Rule the Mind Sculptor.
Or attempt to, depending on what Brian has in hand.
It's turn 4.
On turn 4.
And still making sure that he has enough mana up to crack this deed perniciously.
That is quite a pernicious deed. Brian attempting to activate a fetch land, asking Matt if he is okay with that. Matt doesn't have any cards in hand, so I'm not really sure what the response would have been. Perhaps afraid of a pernicious deed activation before he could go get the land. Snapcaster Mage for Brian Braun-Duin.
All right, and here's the hopeful.
Is going to Brainstorm.
Yeah, does Brian have a way to? Oh no, the deed's gonna get him. I don't think there's a way around
I don't
this.
think there's a way around it, unfortunately for Brian. He saw Snapcaster Mage, Inquisition, and Surgical Extraction, I believe. There is a sword. Oh no, there's a sword. So that's the sword that the Stoneforge Mystic got.
Right, but all this. All right, so
all this is going to be for naught. For this is turn 5.
Attack with everything, and he's gonna blow up the deed.
And that's going to be the end of the game. Brian perhaps could play a bunch of things. They're having their discussion
he'll
now.
be showing hand. He's saying, "Look, like I have the win in my hand. Would you like to concede?" Remember, in the rules, you are allowed to ask for concession once. If your opponent does not take the concession, then it is unsportsmanlike to ask for it a second time.
He has Vendilion Click, Snapcaster Mage, Surgical Extraction, and Swords to Plowshares, whereas Matt Costa has a bunch of lands. Brian Braun-Duin also has a Mutafall. So this is the end of the match. They are discussing what they're going to do.
Yeah, both players are thinking about it.
We'll try and get you information as soon as we get it on what they have decided. Matt weighing his options. Brian waiting patiently to see what Matt has decided.
You know, and I had a similar situation with Matt Costa before. He's a competitor to the end.
Look at him. He wants to do the right thing, but he also is a competitor. He absolutely is agonizing over his decision. I don't blame him if he goes either way.
Number 8, please report to the open stage.
All right, so we'll let you know how that turns out. So right now, as it's set up, it looks like Joe Urbanski. If the draw stands, looks like Joe Urbanski or possibly Eli Cassis will round out our top 8.
If that's a draw.
Should the draw stand, we'll let you know as soon as we know about that. But a great day to the end of action. We saw
absolutely
Jerry Thompson trying for the overall 1 seed, not getting it. He'll be 6th. Ronnie Rittner moving his way into the top 8. Do we know anything about Mr. Rittner?
I interviewed Ronnie Rittner over in the sideboard.
All right.
He is brand new to Legacy. When I interviewed him, he had 1/1/1 Columbus, and this was his second Legacy event.
Wow. All right.
What's
he playing today?
What was he playing today? I believe he was also on Stoneblade in Legacy.
Okay. It's a really good choice.
And I could be wrong. I have seen a lot of decks this weekend. I apologize. I believe he's a Delver player.
So, Stoneblade, that's really jumping into the deep end for Legacy.
Absolutely. But he likes Brainstorm, he likes blue white spells, so how can you blame him?
Right.
So Costa did concede to Brian Braun-Duin.
So that will lock up our top 8. So we have Brian Braun-Duin as the 7th seed, Ronnie Rittner as the 8th seed.